I'm Haley B. Miller, and this is Ohio Politics Explained, a podcast where you give us 15 minutes and we give you all the news you need to sound smart and impress your friends. Welcome to another episode of Ohio Politics Explained. Today, we'll discuss the latest on the higher ed bill, whether Ohio can eliminate its income tax, Sherrod Brown's next steps, and a lawsuit over Ohio's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. Joining me today is Erin Glenn.
Hey, happy to be here.
Our first topic is the higher ed bill. Republicans in the Ohio House passed Senate Bill 1, which would eliminate DEI programs and ban faculty strikes, among a whole host of just a lot of things. The debate on this was unsurprisingly very long, and we heard the usual arguments. Republicans say this is necessary to promote free speech on campus, but critics say it's going to have the opposite effect. The House made some changes to the bill before they passed it Wednesday. Walk us through what those look like.
Yes, so the House, the bill says that faculty that are tenured can now be fired after reviews. This is already in the bill, but it prevents universities from taking any kind of position on controversial beliefs, which I think is what the opponents are worried about as far as free speech concerns.
Yeah. And it now includes, if I recall correctly, some language specifying that this does not apply to policies or people or offices regarding people with disabilities, and
does not apply to sororities as well, I think.
Right, which seemed like kind of a random carve out to me as someone who isn't following this moment by moment like Jesse is.
Right. And it looks like some universities might lose a couple majors because one of the changes they made yesterday is to get rid of undergraduate degrees if fewer than 5 students are getting a degree in 3 years.
Interesting. So now that the House has passed this, it has to go back to the Senate real quick because the House made some changes. I assume the Senate will concur on those. They actually, I think, thought about doing that this past week, but there were a ton of protesters at the State House who had started at Ohio State and marched over to the State House because they were upset about this bill. And I think that may have deterred the Senate from taking the vote this week.
Yeah, Rob McCauley said after the Senate session yesterday that they do plan to concur on the changes, but I don't think they were going to wait around.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it went until like 5:30 Wednesday night, which is later than they go on a normal day. So the bill will head to Governor Mike DeWine after the Senate concurs, and he's expected to sign it. He talked to us and the rest of the USA Today Network editorial board earlier this year and said that he has a lot of concerns with certain kinds of speech being suppressed on college campuses right now and thinks that's a problem. Our next topic is the state income tax and what the candidates for governor want to do with it. Vivek Ramaswamy pledged to eliminate income taxes if he's elected to replace DeWine next year. Republicans have been cutting taxes in Ohio for years, and their next goal is a flat tax. Attorney General Dave Yost also wants to axe the income tax, but he's a little bit more cautious in his approach. How did Ramaswamy and Yost say that they would make this happen?
Ramaswamy kind of took aim at Medicaid and said it's not a Cadillac that there are too many people receiving Medicaid benefits. Yost was a little bit more hesitant and said that, getting rid of the income tax would mean that some of Ohio's most vulnerable residents would lose services that they need.
Yeah, it's really tough because there are states that have gotten rid of their income tax. Florida, Texas, Nevada, a few other ones, but those states either have a higher sales tax or they benefit from tourism, oil production. Nevada has the gaming tax, so they make a lot of money off Vegas, and Ohio just doesn't have that same stuff.
Yeah, we need an Ohio Disney World.
We really do. And as we're seeing, I think at the federal level, there is probably a lot of government waste in this world, ways to streamline government, but taking a chainsaw to it basically can result in a lot of problems for people who work in the government and people who benefit from those services.
Yeah, it would either take a lot of careful thought about the sales tax, where to find this money elsewhere, or what exactly services can be cut.
Ramaswamy has also talked about either eliminating or reducing property taxes. He's kind of gone back and forth on that. But between if you get rid of income taxes and decrease property taxes, then I'm really not sure how you're paying for stuff.
Yeah, I would expect changes to education maybe in that case.
Let's pivot now to Sherrod Brown. His wife, journalist Connie Schultz, announced on Substack that they have moved to the Columbus area after years in Cleveland. Connie attempted to nip any political gossip in the bud. She pointed out that they have kids and grandkids in Columbus, and it's closer to the university that she works at. But we are speculating anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Brown could be a contender for the governor's race. Obviously, it's got the name recognition in Ohio.
Yeah, there are a lot of rumors right now about what he's going to do next. If, as a reminder, he lost last year's Senate race to now Senator Bernie Moreno. And Brown has talked about, potentially diving into the nonprofit world. But he said in terms of another run for public office, he's not ruling anything out. There's, of course, the governor's race. There's also going to be another Senate race next year because Senator John Husted's going to have to run again to keep his appointed seat. So lots of open questions, though I don't think you need to live in Columbus to run a campaign for statewide office. You could probably do that from Cleveland, too.
Right.
Our final topic is a lawsuit over Ohio's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. As a reminder, that law took effect last year and also bans transgender women and girls from playing in female sports. Advocates sued over the healthcare piece and said it violates Ohioans' rights. What happened this week?
So the Ohio Appeals Court ruled that the state's ban is unconstitutional because it violates the rights of transgender Ohioans to choose their own health care. When we talk about gender affirming care, it's usually hormone therapy, puberty blockers, things like that.
Yeah. Critics of gender affirming care for minors often point to gender transition surgery and say that that's too permanent of a procedure to be performing on minors, but it's just really rare. Ohio medical providers have said they just really aren't doing it. So we are talking primarily about the other things you mentioned. What is your sense of what's going to happen next? It sounds like Attorney General Dave Yost has said he wants to appeal.
Yeah, he's running for governor, obviously. So it's making it clear he wants to appeal the decision. We know that there was this was a key goal for Ohio Republicans. I mean, DeWine vetoed the legislation in the first place, and they had the support necessary to override that veto. So I don't expect this debate to be going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, and if Yost appeals, it'll go to the Ohio Supreme Court, which is controlled by Republicans at this point. We'll see what happens there. There is a pretty explicit right in the Ohio Constitution for being able to choose your own health care, but how that's interpreted, I guess, remains to be seen. And one more thing before you go. This year, we're hoping to have more guests on OPE. If there's anyone in Ohio politics you'd like to hear from, email me at hbmiller@gannett.com.